Welcome to another episode of Talkin' Tone. I'll be your host, Dave Pops Clements. With me again today, Carl Popek.
How you doing, Pops?
I'm doing really good. You know, we've been talking the last couple of episodes about a few amps that you've built, and I've used a few of your amps, the 1% amps. Mm-hmm. And I did a couple of tracks on the 210 Vibro Verb. Mm-hmm. And used a couple of different guitars. And in the midst of doing all of that, we had talked about using the vibrato section on a track, which we just talked about in Volume 9. And in the middle of kind of mixing that track, I was sitting here on a Saturday morning, and on Craigslist came up this little amplifier that I'd been keeping an eye on. It's a Rickenbacker TR7. It's a transistor amp, which goes against my whole philosophy here of tube amps are the very best. I normally wouldn't do this, but I had heard about these amps and I wasn't familiar with them. So I went on, Googled it, and found that people were raving about them. They made them in California, made them at the Rickenbacker plant in California, and I think it was 76 to 82. Don't quote me on that. I'm not really sure. That's a close generalization of time. However, everyone's saying these things are amazing. They're killing. So this lady here in Vegas had this for sale for a couple $100, and I guess she just got sick of posting it and had it for $45.
There you go.
I went, you know what? I'm going to buy it. If it sucks, $45. I spend more than that on 2 glasses of wine at dinner.
Gotta love Craigslist.
Man, I went and bought this thing, right? My wife goes, what do you think? And I go, you know what? I don't care. They're selling them for $200. There's a guy selling them for parts for $150, so I'll just put it on eBay and sell it. So I brought it straight home and turned it on here in the control room and went back. You know, I have a whole plethora of guitars upstairs, and we'll get to a bunch of these guitars and your amps over time, but I grabbed my Epiphone Wildcat and went, I just wonder what it's going to sound like. And I thought, holy crap, this is amazing. This little thing's killing. Transistor, 8-inch speaker, but it's got a tremolo circuit on it. Right? So I go, I wonder what this will be like. So I reach down, I crank it, and wow, 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 you know, and I'm feeding back, and I go, oh, that's too cool for school. I think I'm going to track with this tomorrow right here in the control room. So that's what I did. I stuck it in here in the control room, and again, I'm using my favorite desk, the Midas, you know, Venice series, the F16. So, but I'm only using 2 mics on this track. Right? So let's put it up real quick so you can hear it.
I want to hear it.
Okay, so there's the track. I mean, it's crazy. It's a transistor amp, and it's a little transistory sounding, but again, proving the point. But the coolest part is the intro to me of the whole song and the tail end of that, where I'm getting all this kind of feedback-ish kind of, but the tremolo's killing. It's really a pumping tremolo. It's breathing. It's that ho, whoa, whoa, whoa. Just really.
It's musical.
It's mashing.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just mashing at you. And another thing in the track that it's kind of that natural chorus thing where I tried to double myself. And again, to everybody, I'm not a musician. I don't claim to be a musician. I'm hacking out some parts to prove a point. Whether they come out cool or not, it's a track, and we're just kind of trying to show what guitars and amps sound like, really. So again, I tracked this one right in the control room, and I since we were already talking about tremolo and vibrato stuff, and trying to get into that a little bit, I just had to do it, and so I put up another track, and there we are with a TR7 Rickenbacker.
I mean, to me, it sounds great. It sounds, I'm tired of people sounding all the same. And it's like, whether it's transistor, or it's tube, or whatever, that sound gives it its own flavor. I like that.
Yeah, and unlike some of the other tracks that I've done where, I've used 3 or 4 mics even, 2 mics on this one, the SM7 and the KSM27 right up on it. Maybe the KSM27 was a couple inches back, but the SM7 was right up on it, right here in the control room, cranking it out. It's got 2 inputs. I was into number 1 input. Number 2 is a little lower. Volume control's wide open on the guitar. I was trying to overdrive it. It's got a distortion on it, and it's got a foot switch where you can click the tremolo on and off and the distortion. I tried to use the distortion side. It's kind of cool. I may use it in another track further on when we start to talk about guitar amp blending, where we'll use, maybe 3-4 amps. 2 amps, definitely 3 amps, quite possibly.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother issue. You're talking phasing, ground loops,
everything.
All that good stuff.
And when we get to that, we'll use your Little Labs. It's one of my favorite amp combiners. Jonathan Little is an amazing cat. I go way back in North Hollywood. I remember Lon and I drove up to his house and bought one of his first ones. Up in the Hollywood Hills. So we'll get to all of that. And I think this amp is going to be cool for combining with a tube amp, and where I want to use that tremolo as an effect.
Exactly. Most people don't realize in the studio they combine amps a lot. They may take a 10-inch speaker with a 12. One's a little bit more distorted, and you blend them together. So
one of my personal all-time achievements in my career, I was doing a session for a Disney soundtrack for the Country Bears, and it was John Hyatt was kind of the head of all the songwriting, and there was a lot of players, Ben Montench and Mike Campbell and Davey Farragut and on and on.
Wow.
And Keltner even came down at one point. Glyn Johns produced the first part that I worked on. There was a few, Julian Raymond I think finished it, but there was a couple of producers I think in it. But I worked with Glyn Johns. And I had in a doghouse, I think I had an AC30. I can't remember what I had. I had 3 amps that we were using for Hyatt. I know for sure one of them was an Ampeg Reverber Rocket. That
great amps.
Yeah, John.
What is it? Boys of Summer. Don Henley. That guitar part.
Yep,
that's what that amp is.
John had a Rocket, Ampeg Rocket. As well. He had a plethora of stuff, but and I can't remember, there might have been one of the newer boutique amps we had on that session. I can't really remember right now. But Glyn Johns, I was out there with John's 54 Telly, and I was cranking away over a cello, and I was getting my tones for the pass we were about to do. And Glyn Johns walks, and he doesn't man a very few words, right? You know, and he just looks at you, and you know what to do. And so he stops, and he looks at me, and he kind of does one of these. You've finally done something right. And he turns and walks away, and I'm like, oh my God. I just shut it all down. I went to my phone, called my wife. Are you kidding me? Glyn Johns just said I got a great guitar tone. That it's like, are you kidding me? Really? That's like the master.
To me, that is like the biggest compliment you could get from a producer. When they say, I want this sound, and you go, well, what kind of sound are you looking for? You know what to do. Go in there and do it.
And
that,
you know,
that is like...
I did a lot of tones for a lot of records and projects, and one, and we talked about it before with Julian Raymond, was combining amps, was an AC30 and a Marshall JCM 800. That was a favorite combination of his.
Yep.
And we did that 70s show, and it was Cheap Trick. And I got to tell you,
I love that tone, that grind.
That's it. That's an AC30. AC30. And I think he used to Les Paul. The session I worked on was we redid the original. There was a first one put out on the very first few episodes, and then I don't know what happened or why, but Fox TV, they decided to redo it. And somewhere, and I tell you, if anybody's out there and they're watching this and they know where the video is, they came in and videotaped us doing the session. So I'd like to know where that's at.
It's probably in someone's locker, stashed away.
Fox somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody at Fox has it.
Yeah.
I got to find it. I've searched. I've never seen any documentaries. It was supposed to be a documentary. Maybe it's buried somewhere in the first episodes of the making of that 70s show. It quite possibly is, but I'd like to get it. So anyways, again, thank you for coming by and sitting in and listening to this isn't one of your amps, but I was trying to tie it in.
The thing with me is it's not about just my amps, it's about great tone, or the creativity that comes from different tones. And that's important to me. So,
well, we've got a lot of episodes to come. We were talking about earlier about some technical stuff, and I know everybody's probably going, well, these are kind of boring, and they're really not very technical, and we're going to get to all that.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about it just now about doing some, starting, with amp biasing and testing tubes, and we're going to get into how to make cables and what cables do and capacitance and everything that goes into this. But I want to get out there first to a couple episodes with some different amps and some different guitars with just a guitar and an amp and tracking and just see what you can do with that first.
Yes.
And then we're going to build on top of that and get really down and dirty.
Exactly. You're looking at your starting point, guitar, amp, and that's where it all begins. And you have to get those right first before you move on to the other, adding to it.
Absolutely. And it's kind of the same with all my guests that I've just been touching on some stuff. Or talk to people about what do you like to play, or why, or what did you use on this tour, why did you use it on that tour. And then eventually we'll come back to them and start getting down into some more nitty gritty, some dirty bits about what guitar with what pedals did we use on this song or why.
Exactly. It's those choices that the tech makes or the guitar player makes, and
really both.
Yes,
both.
exactly.
If you get me as a tech, you walk in and you go, how's that? I play the part and hand you the guitar, and we go from there. And everybody does that to a certain point. Everybody has to get involved in the studio. You get the engineer, the producer.
It's a team effort.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's how the vibe happens. When you get the engineers, producers, the techs, the musicians together, and they all click, you get a cool vibe and great music comes from
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much once again.
Well, thank you very much, Pops.
We'll see you on another episode.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.